Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson, and I've asked Paul Locke, the Managing Director of Pan Asia Metals, ASX code is PAM, to come back and talk to us about their latest news, which we'll get into in a moment. They've inked a non-binding MOU with a company over in Vietnam. We'll talk about that in a moment, but I want to also ask Paul about the latest update from their Rian Ket project in Thailand. This is Southeast Asia's, it's a big area, big growth area. I want you guys to realize that this is an area that I think is going to have a lot of attention in the near future. Paul, great to see you again. Last time we spoke was in February. Can you just start with, since we spoke in February, what's the news out of Rian Ket? What are you doing over there at the moment to advance the project?
Well, I think when we last spoke, Kerry, and good to see you this morning. When we last spoke, we were just finishing up our drill program at Rian Ket. So we've drilled 102 holes there, and CSA Global right now is piecing together a mineral resource update. So that was actually meant to be a bit earlier, but the queues at the assay labs are quite long, and we have received final assays. So that's well underway, and we've moved both rigs now over to Bangi Tum, where they're drilling. So, in fact, in the next few days, we've got a few announcements regarding Rian Ket coming up. One will have just some further drill results for the last holes at the Rian Ket prospect, and then the first hole at Bangi Tum, where we've had some pretty nice intersections. So it's full steam ahead there. Since we talked too, we've also had some chemical test work results presented. We announced that several weeks ago, where we got lithium into solution with about ranging from 80 to 88% recoveries using unsalted ore. When we use salted ore to produce a concentrate, we get a cleaner concentrate, so recoveries will be higher. So that's going really well, and we expect further test work updates there too, where we produce a battery-grade lithium carbonate.
You mentioned a mineral resource estimate coming out. When are you expecting that?
Well, I think by mid-June is reasonable. We're actually several months late, and for a lot of companies like us, it's out of our hands. The queues in the labs are just unpredictable. Yeah. Even though lithium came off, it's back up again. But with all of this activity in lithium, there's a lot of exploration work going on, so a lot of pressure on labs. But nevertheless, we are actually looking forward to a great announcement, and the project is moving along really well.
I'd like you to remind our audience, if you would, Paul, because I think it's important, why Pan Asia Metals likes Thailand as a place to do business at the moment.
Well, there's two clear answers. One well there, and you've got to be where the geology is. So, if we were to today say, okay, where are we going to look for, or what geology or what countries for lithium? Southeast Asia would be one of several locations you'd choose. We just happen to be in Southeast Asia. But the reason we were in Southeast Asia is that it is a low-cost operating environment. It is very close to a lot of industry where we are. We're literally right in the middle of the Thai and Malaysian industrial sectors, and we're a short distance from the whole of East Asia, and to the west of us, India, which is a massively growing environment. So what we've got to keep in mind is that Asia is one of the fastest growing environments in the world, if not the fastest. In Southeast Asia, the ASEAN countries, including Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Indonesia, there's about 640 million people. And in ASEAN plus India and China, that's 3 billion people. And over 55% of autos or vehicles are produced in Asia. Wow. And that'll equate to EVs, because naturally the EVs will start being produced and are being produced where the auto industries are naturally now. And then 95% of 2- and 3-wheelers, so motorbikes and 3-wheelers, which are massively used in all of Asia, including India and China, are produced in Asia. So the growth opportunities in Asia huge, being the only lithium explorer / developer with progressed projects in Southeast Asia. We're in a pretty good position to harness this growth and to partner well to harness this growth.
Well, that's a nice little segue, Mr. Locke, because when you say partner well, one of the latest announcements that you've made is with VinES, VinES Energy Solutions. Now, they're a Vietnamese company, I believe. I want to understand what you're doing with them. What is this MOU that you've signed with them and why it's important?
Well, I'll give you a bit of background. VinES is the a battery producing arm of Vingroup. It's the largest private conglomerate in Vietnam. Wow. And Vingroup owns VinFast, which is a rapidly growing EV brand with its eyes on the US. They're actually delivering EVs into the US now. They've just shipped their second shipment. So it's quite a large group. VinES is producing LFP CAM, lithium iron phosphate CAM, and producing batteries in Vietnam. And one of its partners is the Chinese battery producer Gotion High-Tech. Gotion High-Tech is actually a reasonably large battery producer in the Chinese order of battery producers, but a very large one globally. So what we're doing is we're studying with VinES we're embarking on a feasibility study for the study of a lithium conversion facility, which as a priority will feed VinES's lithium carbonate and or hydroxide requirements at its factories in Vietnam.
Just, I guess, talk to me a little bit like I'm a 5-year-old, Paul, because we talk about the projects, Bang Thong, Rion Ket, lithium, it's lepidolite, but why are you going down the path of this MOU with VinES? Well, aren't you an explorer delivering lithium to, I don't know, like a concentrate? Why? I'm just trying to get my head around why you're doing this as well.
Our whole strategy is to move downstream. So in Thailand, we have a very good project. Our objectives there are to produce a concentrate, convert that concentrate into lithium chemical. And then we're in negotiations to convert that lithium chemical into cathode active material for use in the Thai market. Okay. But in Southeast Asia as a whole, we see a massive growth opportunity. So what we're doing with VinES is really a separate initiative, which is to source supply from third parties and also secure new supply to feed that plant. And we're in active negotiations on both those fronts.
How does this look in terms of funding, or is that way down the track, Kerry, far too early to even comment?
Look, that's a long way down the track because we have to produce a feasibility study too. But that feasibility study has in fact started. And on Friday, RFQs or requests for quotations for equipment were sent to a number of suppliers in Asia and elsewhere. So we're quite advanced on that feasibility study. That was started several months ago as these discussions with VinES started. The reason we're very excited about this and why it makes sense is, like Rion Ket, Southeast Asia is a low-cost operating environment. Vietnam is a low-cost operating environment. There's a lot of activity happening there in batteries. We've got Gotion there, Samsung is there, several other Korean and Japanese participants in the battery sector are locating in Vietnam. So it's a pretty hot place to be. We'd be the only converter of concentrates into chemicals there. And we have the advantage of a plethora of companies with a lot of expertise in this field in the region, because literally just about all of the world's concentrates are converted in China and the region.
So again, just if I can look at it from your shareholders or potential shareholders down the track, is this sort of downstream movement, this adding the value, do you think that because there's a lot of companies out there and investors that are looking at projects, I think sometimes get a little bit confused because there's a lot of them. We've got lithium. No, we've got lithium.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm asking you is, what sets Pan Asia Metals apart from all the rest of them making noise out there?
Well, what sets us apart is that we're moving past the mine gate. So most of our peers, and this has to do with geography mainly, are mine gate sellers. We see the opportunity to use our mine gate product and other mine gate product to convert. So our ultimate objective is to move downstream, where we see the opportunity for less volatility in margins and more customers, a variety of customers, where we can expand our business further. So it's a very long-term play. We see this working because we've got a lot of expertise around us, a lot of support with companies that we're associated with, and with our large shareholders who actually see what we're doing as actually a pretty reasonable vision.
Vinny, yes, let's go back to that one again, non-binding, the MOU. What does that look like in terms of what's next? The value that this is going to attribute to the company?
Well, it's hard to talk about value before we have a feasibility. I actually can't talk about that. But what's important, we can look at Piedmont, PAL, and they released a DFS for a standalone lithium conversion facility in April. The fundamentals of that DFS were very strong. So I would encourage viewers to go and look at that announcement. One of the advantages we would have in Southeast Asia is that there are conversion factories operating there, and we would expect our capital and operating costs to be materially lower. Interestingly, my understanding is that Goshen's LFP factory in Vietnam has the lowest capital intensity of all the LFP producers in the region. So it's pretty cheap to operate there. There's a lot of skilled labour which can build electric car, battery and conversion facilities.
Is it quicker to get things done up in this area, Paul?
Yes, yeah. It is extraordinarily quick to build something there. Another advantage where we are is where we're locating is in close proximity to VinES's other factories. There's a industrial estate there which has pre-approvals.
How did you come across VinES? Like, I just want to work out why them, why now, if you like.
Well, it's all about opportunity and a meeting of the minds.
Okay.
In fact, we've been up in Southeast Asia for over 10 years.
Yep.
We've been in discussions with various companies, in some cases up to 2 years. And these sorts of things are about relationships and trust. Mm-hmm. So a company like this doesn't sign an MOU with Pan Asia Metals on a whim. You know, it's not a rubber stamp. It's quite a process. They need to have some idea of where we're getting supply and what we're doing. And I mentioned that we're active in this area. They like what they see, and they like the management team. So it's about doability, but also relationships.
Let's talk about that supply. We briefly have spoken and touched on Rheon Ket, Bangui, your two projects in Southeast Asia. Where are you at? When can you get that supply online? Are we talking a few years down the track? I mean,
well, what's important to realise is that our activities in Thailand will remain in Thailand. So we'll be producing a lithium carbonate and converting that to a CAM in Thailand for the Thai battery sector, which is emerging. For that project, we expect to be delivering PFS later this year on both Rheon Ket and Bangui.
Okay.
And then we'll be submitting for our mining license applications. And during that process, will dot the I's and cross the T's for a DFS. So we don't need to be active on the ground for that work. So while all that's happening, while our MLA or mining license application is going through a process, we'll be completing our DFS. In Vietnam, our objective is to bring in spodumene concentrate. So it's an entirely different process. And we'll be sourcing that from parties in Australia and Africa. We've had some discussions already. I do note that Delta Lithium signed an MOU with Vingroup for 45,000 tonnes per annum of concentrate late last year. Given that we only announced this on Friday, I haven't actually talked with Delta yet, but I plan to next week. We're actually looking at opportunities in several countries for supply and also to secure our own ground.
I've got two more questions before we wrap it up, Paul. One is a number of people, they understand spodumene, they understand brines, yours are lepidolite. Can you just explain in the simplest possible terms, if you can, why people not only need to understand lepidolite, but not be worried about it? It's actually probably a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yes, of course. But a point of clarification first. Yep. Lepidolite is Thailand and Vietnam would be spodumene.
Yes, sorry, apologies, yeah.
So with our Thai operations, the mineralization type is lepidolite. Now, the reason why investors shouldn't be concerned about this is that based on 2021 numbers put together by Wood Mackenzie, 18% of the lithium chemicals produced globally from a hard rock source came from lepidolite in China. And that sector has only grown. And according to the Wood Mackenzie cost curve, which is in our last presentation, chemical coming from hard rock or lepidolite is generally placed in the lower third of the cost curve. So it's lower grade, but it's a bit more efficient to process, even though you're processing a bit more volume. In addition to that, it's about proximity to your inputs, your reagents, and your markets. So where we are in Southeast Asia, all of our reagents are local. So we don't have to ship them a long way to do what we're doing. And our markets are local. So we're right in the center of a hive of activity, which allows us to have lower production costs, including energy. Rio Tinto is also on a grid with a hydro power station, and there's ample room for solar. So all of these layers of efficiencies add up to a lower cost product. So we expect we'll be incredibly competitive. We have the advantage of a very educated Thai workforce with a lot of experience in building plant, whether it be petrochemical or industrial plant. All of that flows through to what we're doing. And plus we have a lot of Chinese expertise just up the road in China, and labour's mobile too. So we haven't experienced the inflationary pressures that we're experiencing in a lot of Western countries. Right. And we should see that our capital expenditure and operating costs will be substantially lower than most of our peers. So that's why lepidolite works.
That's a very good explanation. Paul, before we wrap it up, talk to us about the structure, the company structure, because I know you've got quite a lot of skin in the game. In fact, I think, if I'm correct, you're the largest shareholder, so you're kind of in lockstep with shareholders.
Yep. So
I think it's important.
Well, board, management and staff own shares in Pan Asia Metals. Okay. And the aggregate is about 45%. So there's a lot of skin in the game, and our workforce, being stakeholders, want the company to perform. So every day they wake up, it's about Pan Asia Metals. It's actually a really fantastic dynamic, because I see the correspondence from my workers or staff coming through, and they really love just working for our company. So when we make decisions, it's with our best interests in mind, and that includes our as in us, we, the staff, and naturally that flows through to our shareholders. So we're here to build a great company, and I think with a lot of skin in the game, we can achieve that.
All right, Paul. I like to wrap these things up and ask you this, which is why right now people should be sitting. Three reasons. Three reasons they should be sitting up.
Harry, right now we're as cheap as chips. So now I say that seriously. Our market cap is around 45 million or so. I'm looking at a lot of our peers out there, which are in the 200 and 300s. Some of them don't even have a resource. Wow. So we are super cheap. Also, we are located in a low-cost operating environment. That's CapEx and OpEx. And also, we're a company which is seizing opportunity, and the VinES MOU is a good example of the style of opportunities we're looking at. So with investors looking at Pan Asia Metals, if they keep those three key points in mind, and there's a lot of other stuff under the hood, I think we're a pretty good proposition.
Oh, that sounds intriguing, doesn't it, ladies and gentlemen? A lot of other stuff under the hood. So we clearly can't talk about the next steps yet, but I'm assuming lots of news flow to come, Paul.
We're here to make a bang.
Bang, bang, bang. All right, Paul Locke, Managing Director, Pan Asia Metals. Thanks so much for joining me on Small Caps today, and keep us updated as you go along. And congratulations on the VinES deal.
Thanks, Kerry. Have a great day. Cheers.